is one of Razer's oldest and most iconic lineups. Loads of gamers love this mouse, but the V3 Pro recently came out, and to put it lightly, it caused a bit of a stir in the community.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
Now, we've had this mouse for over a month now, and we really wanted to properly test it out before doing a review. So in this video, we're gonna check out and see what has changed. One of the most controversial changes is the shape. Now, the iconic flared portion at the front has been redesigned with reduced width and less aggressive curves. Now, the right-hand slope has also been smoothed out, and the curves in general are a lot more subtle. I can definitely see why fans of the classic DeathAdder shape are disappointed to see this kind of deviation of what has been an iconic design. They've also dropped the unibody style chassis in favor of this two-piece design with separate mouse buttons. And I have to say, I definitely prefer this to the V2. Now, there's a few other changes. The DPI selector switches, which were previously on the top, have been moved to the bottom into a combo DPI power switch. They also ditched the RGB, which, while technically a downgrade, I think it makes sense on a mouse aimed at competitive gamers where aesthetics are mostly secondary to performance. Now, it does seem like it's been optimized for claw grip users. The hump has been moved forward slightly, which gives you a better palm support, along with a small increase in height on both the side buttons and the scroll wheel, which does slightly improve accessibility. Speaking of the scroll wheel, it feels really good. They're using a different encoder this time around, and it doesn't have the audible chassis echo that the V2 had when you would scroll, and the increased height helps to complement the change in shape. Overall, it does feel more ergonomic than the V2, with great support and sensible button placements, and I think a lot of people will find it very comfortable. Although, if you were hoping for an identical feel in the V2, you might be in for a surprise since it definitely feels different, but in a good kind of way. Another thing you will immediately notice is how light this mouse is. I almost thought they didn't put a battery inside of this mouse when I first tried it because it feels like there's nothing in it. Weighing in at just 63 grams, it's 28% lighter than the V2. So if you like lightweight mice, which a lot of people do, it's a welcome upgrade. However, it does come at a cost to features, since on the V3 there is no RGB, no top DPI buttons, no charging dock support, no dongle storage, and no Bluetooth. Yes, I know it seems like a lot, but despite being a little light on features though, we do now get a USB-C, and the build quality is as good as you would expect from Razer. It feels very robust, there's no weird sounds coming from the chassis, and the finish is an eggshell semi-matte look to it with moderate grip. It does come in black as well. Those of you that are after more grip will be pleased to know that it does come with pre-cut grip tape, so you can customize the feel to your preference. Surface compatibility is great as well. You can choose soft, hard, or hybrid. It even supports glass now as well, which is pretty nice. And we also get 100% PTFE feet, so whichever surface you go for, there's very little friction. If you want to customize things further, Razer Synapse software does support independent changing of the lift off and landing distance, so you can really dial things into your preference depending on the surface. Battery life has been improved as well, being bumped up to 90 hours, along with an improved click life cycle of 90 million clicks, up from 70 million on the V2. Now, the same can be said on the new sensor, which we've seen in the Viper V2 Pro. We're now getting a 30,000 DPI, up from 20,000 on the DeathAdder V2, which at this point honestly just feels like a marketing gimmick. I mean, does anyone actually feel like 20,000 isn't enough for a mouse? What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. It's a very similar story with the IPS rating. If you don't know what that is, it basically means the max distance in inches a mouse can travel per second before a sensor can no longer track or measure it. Now, if you've ever used a really old mouse and tried to do the flicking movements, you might have experienced this limitation in the form of spinouts. Now, the thing is, the DeathAdder V2 already had a really good sensor, capable of doing 650 inches per second with 50 Gs of max acceleration. We're now getting an IPS rating of 750 along with 70 Gs of max acceleration. I don't even know if a human can even generate that many Gs. Someone needs to test this out, and if you do, please tag us, but it just seems crazy. So yeah, on paper, it's better, but it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, one, Was it a limitation in the first place? And 2, is this gonna translate to real world performance gains? That being said, they have made some upgrades to the wireless capability as well. The standing polling rate on this mouse with the included wireless USB dongle is 1000 Hertz. But if that's not enough, you can pick up the hyper polling wireless dongle that recently came out for an additional $30, which will increase to 4000 Hertz. With this, you're going to be getting an overall latency of 0.51 milliseconds, partially thanks to the Gen 3 optical switches on the mouse buttons, which is insanely low, better than even most wired gaming mouses. But do bear in mind that the 4000 Hertz polling rate will reduce battery life significantly, down to 24 hours. So I would say it's a feature best reserved for the elites and hardcore gamers. In terms of upgrading and wondering if you should, if you own the V2 already, I think a lot of it comes down to personal preference. I do think the shape of the V3 has improved, at least ergonomically speaking, and I really like it, but I would definitely go and try it out at your local Best Buy and see if you like it before you buy it. Now, if you are a competitive gamer and you want the best performance when it comes to wireless mice, this right here is obviously the right choice. The Viper Ultimate V2 still exists as well, which performs just as good, although it is in a different shape. But while the DeathAdder V3 Pro does have undeniably impressive specs and is clearly an upgrade over its predecessor, the price tag is $150, and it's kind of hard to swallow if you already own the V2, and even for new buyers too, since you can easily find the V2 for as little as $70. But like I said, definitely go and try it out. I can see this becoming another one of Razer's bestsellers. It performs amazingly well. It's nice to have yet another option in this super light category. But me personally, I have never been a huge fan of the classic DeathAdder shape, and I feel like the improved ergonomics go a long way in making it a great daily driver, even if you're not necessarily a professional FPS player. Now, I've definitely noticed myself picking up this mouse way more often than I was expecting, and it just feels really good in the hand for daily use. What are your guys' opinion on the new mouse? Could you see yourself upgrading to the V3, or do you still prefer the V2? And do you like the new design of the V3? Let us know down below in a comment, and we'll make sure to leave the links to both the V2 and the V3 down in the description if you want to check them out. Make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we will catch you in the next one. Also, Josh says hi.
Hi.